Okay, I'll give it up, yeah.
Well, good afternoon. Calling this meeting to order. I think we have quorum. I think 5 out of the 7.
7.
All right. So our first, or I guess second item on the agenda is the space for public comment, period devoted to comments by the general public about items on the agenda. Before I continue, are there any members of the public? Hello, how are you? Yes. So let me continue reading. There are not discussion, action, or vote taken on this agenda item, and you can have the opportunity to speak on individual public hearing items at the time they are presented. If you wish to speak to the board council about items within its jurisdiction but not appearing on this agenda, you must wait until the comments by general public, which is towards the end of the meeting. And comments are limited to 3 minutes, so please step up to the speaker podium or just close to this microphone so that our colleagues online can hear you. And also, please spell your name and last name for the record. And so if...
yeah, sure.
And you could just come over here, Zach.
Okay.
Entrees, if you're listening and you do want to make a public comment, please look to raise your hand on the WebEx. Awesome. Okay. Here. Oh, you got it.
Yeah. Okay. Do I need to press anything?
No.
All right.
And you don't have to leave. You're
Okay.
fine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zachary Freed. I'm one of the commissioned, I'm a commissioned filmmaker for the Pearson Pillar Mural Project. And don't really have much to say for public comment. Literally just wanted to come support. I was invited to the meeting, so just wanted to introduce myself and say hello.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you and welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Uh-oh.
Andres, do you wish to make a comment or?
I'm going to say no.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is the approval of our agenda for November 12th for today's meeting. And this is a possible action item. So give Heather a moment to catch up and
To make a motion to approve the agenda?
Well, if anybody wishes to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Heather. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jerry. Jeff, sorry.
Jerry.
I'm just like, yeah, thank you, Jerry. Those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 There you go.
And Mary,
I think we heard Mary, correct?
Aye, yes.
Hi. Yeah, I said
I also.
hello.
thank you.
And then Jeff came on for a second.
Can
Yes,
you guys hear
aye.
me?
We can hear you, Mary. Thank you, Mary.
And I think I heard Jeff.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
All right, so it seems that anybody abstain or against? I guess not, right? So we just voted in favor. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes for the October 8th meeting. This could be also an action item. So I don't know if people had the chance to review the minutes.
Very short.
I make a motion to approve the October 8th minutes.
Thank you so much, Heather.
And I'll second that, Jeff Fulmer.
Thank you, Jeff. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 I think I heard Jeff as well. Abstentions, opposed? Nope. Perfect. Thank you. So we're moving to our next agenda item, which is the appointment of the chair and vice chair of the committee, and this is also possibly an action item. And just to introduce that, I think this is the end of my first term, and also, Jerry's first term as vice chair. So I don't know how you feel. I'm comfortable continuing on this role if that's something that the rest of the members consider. I don't know, I cannot speak for you, but
I am very happy if you want to.
wonderful. Well. Well, so if,
That was the primary reason.
if we have your support, you know, both Jerry and I would be delighted to continue to serve in this capacity.
So we could make a motion to approve the continuation as chair and vice chair. I would make that motion.
Thank you so much, Heather. Appreciate it.
And I'll second that motion, Jeff Fulmer.
Second. Okay.
All right, so Jeff,
Jeff
if you
and
do it.
Ken.
Jeff, yeah, okay. Okay.
So we say all in
Now
favor?
we vote, so yes, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Or abstentions? This one I did not see or hear Jeff, so I don't know.
Oh, Jeff tried the second.
I said aye.
Yeah, okay.
Congratulations, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Jeff, we appreciate it. All right, so well, we've done the worrisome part of the agenda. So our next item is to, once again, remember a few meetings ago, we were asked to complete the training of the Nevada Ethics Commission, as we are basically asked to disperse funds and select projects. It's important we complete that. We received Alexia's email confirmation that she has completed that. I've completed that.
I have.
I'm remaining to be completed in the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
Wonderful, great. And both Kenneth and Jerry have completed. I think Mary had completed it last time. I-
Yes, everyone else is
And Jeff as well. Well, wonderful. So then we're on track.
beautiful. Thank you all.
And our next item on the agenda is the report from the Public Arts Sub-Advisory Committee members. Again, this is not an action item.
So I mean, I can report if you guys want to, or Ken is in the room if he wants to report.
No, we'll let Jeff go on.
Okay. So
Wait, thank-
the Public Art Sub-Advisory Committee consists of myself, Alexia Chen, and Ken Ruffin, and we met on October 30th. We had a really good conversation about this and are looking at kind of some multiple different tools perhaps to use to help increase evaluators' knowledge of public art and its role in our community. So we did look at some potential trainings, including maybe using full scope. We looked at some information from Americans for the Arts, and potentially a training session from Forecast Public Art, who had done our previous Making It Public multi-session trainings for artists. We talked about sharing, broader information about public art and its roles in our community. Talked about maybe using the Clark County TV program for that. And staff has begun working on an evaluation committee guide brochure, guiding committee members not only on the role of public art in the community, but the role of being an evaluator and interacting with the submittable application, online application that we're currently using. We're at the early stages of developing a matrix or rubric, perhaps to use in helping evaluate. And the committee is also going to help work on a catalog of questions for submittable that could be used for a variety of different programs. And we didn't set a date for a next meeting or next steps, but we're reviewing some of those documents online currently. And that's my report.
Thank you, Jeff. A question for you and Kenneth. If I remember, evaluators do have to go through some at least very basic meeting or training, right?
Yeah, it wasn't too much, so that's what this committee.
So it could be more robust. And will evaluators also need to complete the ethics training?
They won't have to do the full ethics training, which is a good thing, right? You all just did it, it's challenging, it takes a lot of time. What we're having them do, especially on submittable, is basically an evaluator will go into submittable, read the criteria of what is required of them as far as ethics go with purchasing, and they will accept or they will decline that role at that point. Then when they get into evaluating the public art or the applications, their very first thing that they do is they're going to identify, do I have a conflict of interest with this person? And can I move on to evaluate, or no, I can't? So they explain what their connection is, and then they also, we've been talking about having an opt-out for that jury member if they feel like there's no way that they could properly evaluate that person. It doesn't mean that they don't get to evaluate the rest of the people. It just means that their score is eliminated from that particular person. So that's a really great thing for us to do. And yeah, that's how we're kind of handling that situation, because it's very case by case. The reality is like we're all 7 degrees from Kevin Bacon, right? So why wouldn't we be 1 to 2 degrees away from our arts community, which is what you all live and breathe every day? So, you know, so that kind of overcomes that challenge, and really what we're looking for is there some financial benefit of you or them applying or you evaluating them? And then the other one is just like a family member, or there could be challenges in the case where, say it was like a really wild threshold of money. Now we got to start looking at like, who's your circles? Okay, you know, and we get purchasing involved or the DA involved, and let them make that determination if there's too much of a conflict of interest or if they can move past.
And one last question, possibly for the subcommittee. So do you have a sense of, you know, that training, how it would be disseminated? For example, to mind it comes that perhaps, you know, in our institutions, you know, whether it's CSN, Nevada State College, or UNLV, having a session to introduce, you know, young artists or future artists about public art and the opportunity to apply to some of the projects for which they might already be suited, you know, would provide also an insight into how the committee works, and the idea of the training to really encourage people to be knowledgeable or participate in public art would probably be in some ways achieved that way. I don't know, it's just a suggestion.
Well, first, I'm going to say, since I'm new to that, I'm still learning, and just to make sure that I'm okay with everything and reading names and everything, it's like, oh, what's my 7 degrees of separation also? So that would be the first thing, you know, just make sure that, and I'm reading the documents and everything, and keeping abreast of everything that's going on, and making mental notes as much as I can. And thank you, Jeff, for giving that report, because I guess with other meetings I have, I was like, okay, well, I have this meeting or that meeting, so I don't want that cross-reference thing with other organizations also.
Yep.
I think I had notes from the right meeting, hopefully.
Well, it sounds like it, yes.
But Alfredo, also to address your question, I think that education component really needs to be multi-pronged. It needs to be regularly updated and having some print materials, great, but also having video training and real on-ground training. I love that our full scope sessions are recorded and a new committee member could, go back and watch one from several months ago and not have to be at a current, because we want to keep inviting more and more people into our community and to be active as jurors and help us select the public art for the community. And so we kind of have to continually educate.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any other comments or questions for the subcommittee? Here none. I guess we move to our next item. Thank you, Jeff and Kenneth. So our next item on the agenda is the discussion on identifying values to the county public art. And this is not an action item.
So we've sent out in your packet this list of values. Let me get it shared on the WebEx here. And this was coming from a couple different things. One was the county was gracious enough to allow me to go to CODA Summit last month. And one of the first panelists to talk was a gentleman that has created the Museum of the Future in Dubai. And what he talked about as he walked through each space and as they developed these spaces with all of these people from around the world is he had associated some hard values that he wanted to see in every single element of the museum. And then he actually made his creators do a writing exercise where they had to fill in those blanks for each value. And so I thought that was a clever way, right, to stay pretty consistent with those values, identifying them, and with the scope of work and the large area that we have in county, I thought, well, this would help us greatly, right? One of the other speakers had presented, and this was just one random slide, was most of these values. And she was talking about what makes good public art, and she had identified the majority of these. And so staff met about it, we talked about them and said, yeah, these are great ones, let's bring them to the art committee. Have you guys think about those as well, and then, maybe next time we meet, come to the table if you want any tweaks to it. The intent on this was to put this in many different areas, right? So put it in the call as values, put it in the project brief as values that the artist would have to write about or think about as they're doing their design or their community engagement. And then in the evaluation from the evaluation panel, when they're evaluating the final design, that they bring it back to some of these values as well. So, I mean, it has to be all of them, but that
can enrich the rubric, right?
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly it. So really, the only one that staff added to this was quality materials and application of craft. Just, making sure that we are getting a quality piece for the funding that we're assigning. I think that the county, I think that this committee assigns very robust budgets to a lot of these projects. And with that, we should be asking for really good work, right? Both concept-wise and also fabrication, material choices, all of those things should be considered very high standard at that point.
My only comment on that is that someone might not, there's a broad interpretation of application of craft. I mean, that you could really go a lot of different directions in. So maybe you want to really hone it in and say, we want a long-term sustainable work that reflects a quality level of material or a quality level in fabrication. Because when you say craft, that doesn't necessarily speak to wear and tear or longevity or any of the things that you might be faced with. I think about the conversation we had around the bolting material and how, you know, we were really trying to solution find and problem solve for that. If I read that, I wouldn't necessarily go straight to the expectation of quality level. I think it's very, I think you understand it in the second sentence, but I don't know. I think application of craft is very broad.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
And then on the mundane location, I maybe would think about underdiscovered or something that seems more opportunistic and exciting. Because if you say something is mundane, then you kind of psychologically, automatically are like, oh,
It means the place.
you know, kind of sad. But if it's like underdiscovered, you're being given an opportunity and it could be exciting.
Yeah.
Very small things. They're very strong values and really describe the work that is being done.
Yeah. Great.
And I would almost argue, although I like the, you know, undiscovered, but I almost say any location, right?
Yeah.
So even, for example, we're putting a mural right next to the Allegiant Stadium, which is by no means
Oh, that's a good
undiscovered.
point. Yeah,
You know,
that's a
so-
really good point.
So we're trying to enhance every
Yeah.
space.
You
right?
could say transform and enhance location,
Mhm. Exactly.
and that way you don't, you know, you give yourself enough freedom to think about where they are
Mhm.
geographically.
And totally agree with Heather's comment on the last one. So maybe, you know, because the use of craft or the word craft can be confused with, you know, I'm an artist, not a craftsperson, right? So perhaps take the each out of people who might not
Yeah, who
like
might
that.
otherwise feel like,
So quality materials and fabrication, but also, you know, with regards to longevity, striving for longevity, right? So that has to be your goal, right? Strive
Yeah.
for, how do I make,
Yeah.
even if it's a paper installation, right? How do I make this last?
Yeah.
As long as the material can really
Thank you.
last. Which brings also an interesting question, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but I also wonder if, I mean, for example, some of the installations might wish to be ephemeral, right? So just something that is done, boom, once, lights, or some
Good
show
point.
or play, and so it might not, you know, the lasting component might not necessarily be.
Yeah. It still comes down to, if you're funding a lighting project for $100,000, I better not get Amazon LED strips, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like,
There
you need to know and have
Mhm.
warranties on the materials you're
Yeah.
purchasing and where
Right.
they're coming from and what's their capability.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And besides, you know, in the rubric, for example, if it were not to apply to a certain type of project, hopefully the artist will be very explicit about this is meant to just be a one-off, right?
yeah. And it's, I mean, and it's some of the, I think too, the RFQ or the RFP will state the duration and the expectations too, when you're looking at that. So you'll have that supplementally in addition to the value.
We'll go back and edit these, Tammy, we'll go back and edit these and then send them out to you all for more, edits.
I'm not
Unless
sure if
you
you
all
guys
think
can
about
see, I have my hand raised, but I did have a few comments. Two things that I feel are perhaps missing from the list would be kind of that these are long-term investments, that they often are economic drivers and help promote cultural tourism and different positive economic aspects in our community. Another one that public art is really kind of well documented for doing is reducing vandalism, crime, and urban blight. And so I think maybe something that addresses that. And then I think in our writing of these, there might be places to maybe more eloquently say what they're actually doing. So looking at fosters social connections, it ends, that sentence ends with and promoting social interactions. Social interactions can be a whole range of really good to really bad, but maybe we would want to say promoting positive social interactions. We could add more uplifting and inspirational, positive adjectives throughout to show that not only do these reflect local cultures and values, but they reflect the benefit of local culture and value.
That's great. And then even in that sentence, if you look to just pull all the tenses together, because if you have brings and promoting, you might want to say brings diverse populations, is accessible, and promotes. So they're all tensed in the same, I don't know what you call it, verb dynamic.
And just in thinking, this obviously has nothing to do with the values, but with the sharing of the values with prospective artists, that probably for each of these categories, there needs to be a little bit more, assuming someone applies and they live in Massachusetts, right? And they're not from here, they might not get us exactly and so on, right? So they need more information. So for example, when we talk about locations and enhancing them, not only information about the site, but general climate, the challenges for public art, documenting, or for example, documenting vandalism if the art piece is going to be in an area where this is unfortunately happening, or thinking of other elements of, for example, social connection, right? So the kinds of activities or how people use outdoor spaces or interact with the, works that have been already put in place so that they get a sense of how people react to various public art projects, right? Because I think if you think, for example, of the city of Minneapolis that has that wonderful sort of outdoor sculpture garden and collection of public art outside of, the way people interact with those projects probably is very different to the way in which folks interact with some of our pieces that tend to be more isolated, right? Yeah. So for an artist, it might just be good to have that sense of reference. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that they need it, but it's always better if we're going to evaluate them on their response to this, perhaps we need to give them a little bit more information, right?
And totally related, but also unrelated, is there a point in the process where we require as the artist to give a recommendation for long-term care and conservation? Do they write a small conservation memo or note?
They do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that comes in that design and presentation contract. That's when they do their project brief. And in that project brief, it goes over all of those things. Yeah. Okay.
Are there any other comments, Mary, Jeff, I don't know if you have your hands raised, because I cannot see from here, but, give you a chance if there's anything else you wish to add.
I think we're moving in the right direction. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what everyone kind of commented, and I'll definitely look over those and come up with maybe some notes once Nikki sends those out.
Perfect. Thank you, Mary. Any other thoughts, any questions? No? Well, thank you for putting these together. I think it's actually interesting that it can also help the evaluation of art, their response. The narrative has to touch on these points and can help the evaluators, select a better piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good framework.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just haven't had time, but eventually I'll do a presentation on CODA Summit for you all and kind of do a deep dive on some of the artists that presented. I think it's a neat opportunity to see some of that stuff, and then highlight also Blink, which was pretty cool. I don't necessarily know it's a fit for Vegas, but it's still a very cool thing.
All right, so we're moving on to our next item, item number 9. So discussion to implement a laureate program for musicians or other performing artists. This is just discussion, not an action item.
So I just did a quick Google search and found these programs, and this is really a discussion between the committee. If you did want to look further into it, I need to kind of run around and get the approvals from the county side before it would go into like a budget season situation.
Would it be artist and artwork specific? Like we'd adapt some of the language, so we'd have like an artist laureate, visual artist laureate.
Jeff was the one that brought it up.
Because it's so close to our mission to support the visual arts and public art. Would you tie it to the public arts program and have it be, someone that has accomplished a great project, and that it gives you also another opportunity to celebrate that project and do programming around something we haven't thought about in a while, or bring something back into attention and framework that is in the domain of public art.
Yep.
We need to look at the mission statement again to see if, a poet laureate fits in there. The language allows for that.
Yeah, when I brought this up last month, I just saw the great success that we've had with our Poet Laureate program and how it's really embraced, especially by Winchester Community Center, and seems like the events are well attended, and the educational outreach is valuable, and just wondered if there was a way to, kind of expand on that success, and if there was an appetite in the county, those people who would actually, administer and make use of that for, other type of laureate programs, whether it be, a visual artist, whether it be a performing artist, a musician, seems likely, even an architect laureate, someone who could help teach the community about architecture and embrace the unique architecture of Las Vegas. I don't know where exactly to go with it, but for me, the next step seemed to be whether there was interest from those people who would, host those programs at their community centers and stuff, whether it was worth exploring further.
Yeah, I can tell you on that, Jeff, what we've done with the Poet Laureate program this year is kind of really revamp it, where it's less about that programming end of it. I think it was very hard for them to come into Clark County and then dictate programming to a community center, there was struggles there, right? It was frustrating for the poet laureate, it was frustrating for staff and all the in-between. And then on top of it, government is never easy to get people paid,
Right.
which many of you understand and get in your own agencies. So what we did with that, just to highlight it so you guys can go back to your conversation, what we did still have the poet laureate engage in a program, and our new poet laureate, she's doing a program where they're coming in quarterly, so it's 4 times a year, right? And then, and I'll go in more detail when I show you her slides and stuff today, but basically, we kind of backtracked that, and now it's more of a booking situation where you could go on Submittable and you could book the poet laureate for an event and kind of expose that in a new way.
That's kind of nice. I mean, in a way, you think about if you have Clark County Poet Laureate on your CV, it's really prestigious. And it allows you other opportunities based on getting that honor and recognition. So if you had a Clark County Public Art Laureate, it might work similarly. And then you're not going into a community center and dictating programming. You could do it anywhere and tie it into wherever their work is situated in the county.
Correct.
And then give that artwork another opportunity to be celebrated. And then they could do similarly. People could say, what artists are out there doing public work? And you say, oh, look, the Public Art Laureate of Clark County did this, and we have this project. So maybe it's a way to expand someone's opportunities.
Yep. This is sort of a logistics and possibly convoluted question, but is there a possibility to have private partnerships? For example, all of a sudden when Heather was talking, what if we have a musician that comes and performs, but, you know, if we could get the Smith Center to sort of perhaps provide the space and maybe in some ways facilitate, you know, these concerts for the artists, is that something that is a possibility?
Yeah, I guess it would. I mean, I think that where you all are kind of heading is, and my suggestion would be not to rush into this and maybe go to the art summit that City of Las Vegas puts on, and let's have a conversation about that, right? And maybe that is a panel conversation of how we can start uplifting a lot of different areas of our arts. And is it an annual award? Is it an award we're talking about, or a laureate? Because those are 2 different things too, right? I know with Commissioner McCurdy's office, there's been a lot of talk about, for Black History Month, celebrating Black artists within our community. And so far, it's been limited to like a one person being that recipient. A couple of years ago, so 2 years ago, that was Harold Bradford, and then last year was Clay T. White. But I'm trying to work with them to say, why don't you open this up more as a award system for all different types of artists, and it doesn't mean that you have to identify 20 different artists each year, but, you know, somebody shines in musicians, why don't you pick that year a musician? But I have also asked them too, I said, well, let's get that out in the community and let the community nominate and figure out a committee to make those selections instead of it just being kind of internal conversations, right?
But in the event of an award, is it that just basically you're honored or something like that? Or the laureate is like, it involves curating and experience, right? So I'm more inclined to that than the award, but that's just personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a laureate, you're always going to want to put that on your promotions. Or award, you might put that on your resume.
Right.
And it collects dust, right?
Well, that was my question as to how the laureates would be identified or selected. Who would be making that choice?
Right.
And who makes them for the poet laureate? I mean, you have a good model, you have a structural model for how it works
Yeah.
currently.
So currently with the poet laureate, the poet laureate 2 positions ago is one of the members, and then the rest are just people in the community that are already poets. So,
So it's
you know,
your peers. I mean,
Yeah.
you're being elevated by your peer group.
correct. It's library district, it's Black Mountain Institute, it's business owners of bookstores, that type of thing. Yeah. So 100%, yes. Oh.
So we're gonna process this item and get some more data
Yeah.
and workshop it at the summit.
I think so. I think, like, you know, how does that work? Because I can tell you, I mean, if you're going to identify a musician, are any of us qualified in this room?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I would be more inclined to celebrate public art because I think we do a lot of celebration when the piece first is unveiled. And then how do we get to celebrate it again, you know? I like the idea.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in that room probably is qualified to select the poet laureate, probably either. I might be wrong.
Yep.
But we can help administer that program and help move it forward. And I think the same's true for a musician laureate. As long as we have a good selection process, like the template that exists for the poet laureate, from the local music community, that type of thing, for those selections. It seems like, you know, we talked about it's a really good way for an artist to, you know, be able to promote themselves, being able to say that they're a laureate. But also every time they say they're a laureate, then they also say Clark County, which circles back on, you know, our program and what we do and the benefit that we provide. And so it's not just a one-way street there with promotion.
So I think we all have homework, and we should probably review the links provided and familiarize ourselves with these various programs so that at our next meeting we can be better informed and probably have, you know, good conversation about it. But as you said, you know, this is probably something that we need to give it a few more passes
Yeah.
until we.
Yeah, figure out what is the legitimate scope that you're looking for with this program, yeah. Yeah, that's great. And you can see, I mean, there's a variety. The San Francisco Drag Laureates, you know, 55,000 for 18 months. But the person in that position is booking or being called upon to go out and do things in the community at a very global, like the mayor's office extent. So it just depends on that level. The Poet Laureate program, we've kind of backed it down in pricing, so it's that $8,000 per year, and they're sitting really nationally on average in that pricing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to also recognize, I mean, for a moment, if there has to be in addition to the clear agenda of being a laureate, sort of a sub-theme, you know, so for example, if we wish to advance, you know, minorities or BIPOC, you know, arts and culture, or if there's, you know, in this case of the LGBTQ or whatever it is, that might be a way in which we can, help those communities find a means to, to have expression and possibly inspiration, role models, and so on, right? So, but I agree. I mean, I think this is something that probably still a few more meetings of discussion, but certainly we should probably review this and maybe even enrich the list if we find any other programs that might seem, worth reviewing. Maybe send a link to Tammy or Mickey, and they can include that in, the discussion, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
They get bigger staff.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that. All right, so we're moving on to our next item on the agenda, which is the report by staff regarding monthly summary of activities. This is not an action item.
Then just a reminder for Jeff and Mary, we won't be able to see a hand raised, so please just call it out to us. Okay. Okay, we're going to start with open calls. So our Poet Laureate has an open call right now for reading at the Here and Now reception. So what is happening is she's offering a workshop. It happened this last Saturday, but anyone has access to the Rotunda Gallery. They go in, take a look at the artwork, and then create a poem based off of one of those visual artworks. The poet needs to, well, they're an artist too, but they need to identify who that visual artist is and what the name of and title of the piece is, and then they could go on Submittable and apply. Ashley will pick out 3 people that will be paid $100 a piece to read their poem at the reception. So yeah, it's a great program. That's her program that she's going to go do for the next 2 years. We also have a folk juried exhibit at Winchester Gallery. That is with Brad McMullen, and that closes out December 1st. We have Youth Temporary Public Art open call. That is for our winter spring crew, and so we're looking to hire 4 more artists for that. We have our Desert Breeze facility mural that's going on a Connex box at Desert Breeze at the back of the facility. That deadline's December 2nd. And then we have the Mother's Roots. That's juried by Erica Vital Lazar, and that closes December 15th. So yeah, a lot of open calls right now. And then, like I said, our county poet laureates, I want to introduce you to Ashley. So it's Ashley Miss A.V. Vargas, and she is our newest poet laureate. And people can book her for events, as I spoke before, by emailing poetry@clarkcountynv.gov or just going on Submittable and putting in all your information. We do suggest honorarium. We're only compensating her for just a handful of these engagements, and so if people want to contribute and help pay for her to come to these things, that's a great thing. So that's one of the questions on there. Kind of educates people about poetry as well.
Question.
Yeah.
What is, or who responds on behalf of poetry?
She does.
Oh, it goes
Yeah.
directly to her?
Yeah.
Okay.
She has that, because of, I love Submittable. Because of Submittable, she's able to get them, she can look at them. What we need to work on is acceptance and decline letters, so that once she tells me yes or no, I can send out that email. So we're in a little bit of hiccup right now, but we will get there.
So
Is there any-
there's-
Sorry, go ahead.
There's no middleman.
No, there will be. I am doing interviews, tomorrow for our poetry coordinator. We did lose, JM. So JM, was awarded a scholarship from UNLV to get her master's in literary, arts. And so we are trying to fill that void, tomorrow.
Okay, sorry.
Just a quick question. So in the case of declining invitations, because you know that can also get somewhat thorny. Oh, I invited the person and she did chose, and you know. So how is that handled? I mean, is there a rubric that, I mean, one thing is scheduling, but maybe it's like, oh, I'm sorry, this date cannot work, but this other date's good, or, you know?
Possibly, but it's really up to her, and if they're not going to compensate her,
Right.
I mean, she either has to make income off of doing these engagements, or she's gonna have to decline them to do
Right.
other things that are gonna pay her, so.
And that's the sole criteria that at the moment is being used, or is the compensation adequate for the engagement?
Yeah, that's all on her to make those choices right now,
Mhm.
so, yeah. I don't know.
So if she were to decline, I mean, sorry, I just want to understand that much. So suppose that she's invited to, say,
The mayor's.
well, the mayor's, that'd be great, but say to an event that is of more private nature, and she feels that that organization does not reflect her values, so can she decline on the basis of that, even if there were to be compensation?
Yeah.
And
Or
if-
she could decline on the basis of scheduling if she didn't want to communicate that she doesn't have value alignment.
Yeah.
So if it was, you know, if she didn't want to
Right.
offend the person and say, I don't align with your values,
Bless you.
she could probably be flexible enough to use another, I'm traveling on
Right.
that date, or
Yeah.
that way,
And that's
They
it,
face,
she has
basically
a, you know,
that's,
hopefully she has a few different ways of,
that is the
being
part of the
diplomatic.
sort of declining engagement that I think, if there's not a protocol, I mean, some training or some sort of from our end to coach them, right? Because what
yeah, that's a good point.
if you get invited to a place that,
Something you don't want to do.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, that was something we haven't had the chance to sit down and develop those, you know, basically generic letters that thanks people
Yeah.
immensely, but due to time framing or whatever it is, she's unable to make it. And then some options. If she really wants to make it, she's gonna
Give other days.
give us some other info. Yeah, and through Submittable, yeah, we could email direct. So we could email out generic letters, which is fantastic, right? Because it saves a lot of that space and a lot of that training time. And then, for the times where we can't, we could still just run it through that program, which is nice.
Yeah. I just get concerned with, you know, frankly, our community sometimes lacks in support, and so if you get an invitation to, thinking you could have the poet laureate come to your gathering or whatever, and there's a, you know, decline, then that might just also result in like, so you see, we support public art, but they don't show up.
Yeah, no.
But it sounds like through Submittable, you could write a very diplomatic decline,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't, you know, could be very generous.
Yeah, I think so. On the back end too, we had a conversation with, one of the former laureates. And, you know, she got into that pickle sometimes where it would be, somebody would ask, for her to speak without any compensation. And she felt weird about it because she was like, well, I really want to do this, but I also am concerned that, you know, what does that look like for other poets that
Yeah.
now it doesn't educate the person?
Right.
So on the acceptance, if they're not doing any honorarium, but she's still accepting, I do want to work out with her, like, how much would this have cost?
Yes.
So she can say in her email, I have accepted it, and just so you know,
This normally costs X
Yeah.
amount per appearance,
correct.
so
And
they know.
Clark County is paying for this is one that I've chosen to,
And the
something like
the,
that.
the events that are, you mentioned some of the events might just be covering the stipend, right? So for example,
Mhm.
she might do an engagement that is
Mhm.
already cover, I don't know, a county or something, right?
Exactly, yeah. So she has a couple.
That are
It's
kind of,
not very much, but, at least she has a couple there that she can pick and choose. She's actually out today because she got a request, and it's in Mesquite, and so she went to Mesquite, and she's doing a podcast, yeah.
Great.
So yeah. Yeah, that's good. Miss Avey is, I can't read that top, but, she is a Afro-Latino, artist here in town. I believe it says that she was born and raised here as well. And, she is a woman of many hats with a passion for poetry. Her work has been featured by the legendary All Death Poetry, Right About Now, and Button Poetry. She also has been recognized by the Las Vegas Book Festival, Nevada Public Radio, and the U.S. Congress for advancing the cause of literacy and extraordinary literary achievement. She was also an official TEDx speaker back in 2022, and she does run a Las Vegas-based poetry organization called Beyond the Neon, focusing on poetry-exclusive events and community outreach. So we provide on our website all of these items, her link tree so people can get engaged. There's new buttons up there to go directly to Submittable. And then we're also working on the former poet laureates, how to engage them and get a hold of them as well. This is her poetry workshop, so she, you can tell I'm just avoiding that word, aren't I? Ekaphrastic poetry workshops. Her next workshop is Mother Roots, and people can sign up for this on Eventbrite. And there's a button on her page for signups for this as well. And then we're also marketing to the poetry community now that we're back to taking over Poet Laureate within the arts plan. We're trying to get everyone to sign up for newsletters and have a component of poetry within those newsletters. So this just takes us to the regular links for events and for calls, and that's where poets would also see what's going on in their community as well. The other part to that is on our website, we have an additional link that takes people to a page that lists out a bunch of poet organizations here in town, and they can click on those links. That pushes them out to their websites. So we're trying to just connect the community to poetry. So the Poet Laureate, as we said before, it's an $8,000 budget. This is her past items and then look forward items as well. So she did the unveiling at the book festival. It's estimated that 4,500 people attended. She actually had two different things going on. So she was unveiled as the Poet Laureate, and then she also did a panel with all of the existing Poet Laureates. So that kind of rounded out the day. And then she was already booked to be the judge for the youth poetry. And so she had quite a bit to do at the book festival. Another thing you can see here is we're really trying to beef up the marketing aspect of Poet Laureate. And so she has this banner that she can bring around, and she has a tablecloth we got to get to her, and then some buttons, the giveaways. So her poetry workshop, she had 17 people there this weekend. It's great. There's already, for the call, there's already 4 people that have applied for the call. The call closes in the 14th? Yeah, the 14th. She's doing the Mesquite the Art Box podcast in Mesquite today. She has the Board of County Commission meeting on the 19th. And yes, sorry, her call is on Submittable. And then lastly, the poetry reading will be on December 12th at the reception for Here and Now. And in addition to Poet Laureate program, we also have a poetry program. That coordinator will take over these items as well. But for now, it's I've been working on these things. So with Bruce's help from Poetry Promise, he reached out. So we funded Poetry Arcade. The Saturday series with Ruben Medina had 40 people, both in person and online. And the call to Poet Laureate had 5 applications.
For full scope this month, it will be for next Tuesday, November 19th at 3 p.m. We have public artist Matthew Mazzota coming through to present about his process in community engagement and public art. So Matthew, he specializes in large-scale public art, and what he does is he travels to different places and he does this process where he connects with the community and tries to figure out if there's any type of problems that he can solve with his public art. So he'll be going through that process with us during the next week. And then for one-on-one, we had a rise in our one-on-one the previous month because of that. We had about 71 submissions, and I want to say about 12 of those submissions that didn't get through had contacted us for one-on-one meetings to get feedback on their submission.
And then I end up doing UNLV's public art class on November 5th and talking to them about the program. For youth education, Lawrence Reese heads up that program. And right now we have Julia Hall. So she's already performed one of her workshops. It was at the Rotunda. They had 37 people that participated in her creation, her public art creation. And then from there, you can see the list of different workshops that are happening. And then the second list is exhibit spaces. So Julie Hall, basically, she was exhibiting while the piece was being created, and then she's moving over to Moapa Valley Community Center as well. And I think we just need to get some details from Lawrence about exactly where that piece is at right now. And then the Clark County Museum, we have quite a few youth signed up for it. Again, that's another one where you can go on Eventbrite to sign up. And that, I want to see where that is not listed. Yeah, it's a lot to juggle. So we're trying to keep our website updated. So check back there to see where these things are exhibited. And then we'll send out if we do find that we have pieces out at our facilities, I'll ask Lawrence to send you all where they're at. Oh, Gina's gone? Okay. Gina is doing Pearson Gallery. She did just do a reception with Psychedelic Chola. There was 18 attendees. She had 15 attendees at the workshop. And her exhibit came down on the 7th. Next up is Amanda Weeks. She's doing Tales of the Soul and the Perception of Change, running November 20th through January 16th. Her reception is going to be January 16th, and they're still working out when that workshop's going to be. And then with the Rotunda, currently up right now is Here and Now. There was Heather Harmon is our juror, so thank you, Heather, for doing this. We had 176 apps, and we asked Heather to select 30 out of
Very hard.
couple hundred
So many
pieces.
good submissions, so many good submissions.
For sure. So it's a great show. It's up right now, and the reception's going to be a blast. If anyone's available, I would definitely mark your calendars for December 12th. As a reminder, that's the Rotunda, so receptions don't start until 6 p.m., 6 to 8. And we'll still have a musician, we'll have poetry reading, and food. Yeah. And then reassembly required, that closed back in September, but at that reception, we had 60 attendees, and just a reminder of those apps and the selected participants. So it's nice to kind of see those extra numbers and see where we're at. Our 23rd annual Life and Death exhibit was a hit as usual. That happened the first and second is the event. The reception for the artist was on the 1st, and probably estimated around 500 people that attended the festival. It's quite a large festival. Our reception for the zines was a huge hit as well. We had 70 attendees. And then Wetlands Gallery, we don't have updated info for you. They run their own gallery. We just fund a few projects, so that's why there's kind of a disconnect there. And then community engagement. So we had a couple things that happened over the last month. One of those was the CO2 box. I went to long-range planning, and unfortunately, the county management just canceled out that project. And you won't see the Life and Death Festival. That was Louis Ferrarico's piece. So that got installed. He did a great job with it, and it was definitely a highlight of the festival to have that public art piece there. It was in everyone's social media posts. And then, yeah, I think we can move down through the list from there. So the first project, this is new for all of you, but City of Las Vegas is working on a public art history of City of Las Vegas and kind of more the government side of public art. And I thought it would be nice to kind of piggyback off of that and focus on kind of the fine art end of public art. So I've been talking to, Michelle Quinn and about working out a deal for her to create a website for us that kind of goes over this history, not unlike, the Women of Clark County, webpage that we're hiring a historian for. So think of things like, Jenny Hosner's, not so much, I mean, I'm sure, yes, we're gonna get all the MGM, ARIA, City Center, public art pieces, but we're more interested in hearing like Jenny Hosner's piece where she went to the dam, right? And she did a piece out there.
She also did one in 1986 on Caesar's Billboard. That was NICA's first commission.
Love it. Yeah.
It had the truisms there. So she's done several projects here.
Very cool.
And you can always, I mean, we always have images, the Michael Heiser work in Moapa and Mark's work in Moapa.
Yep.
It's good material.
Yes, 100%. So I think it'll be a nice addition. I've talked to City of Las Vegas about doing, you know, once they develop their web pages as well, we can link the two up. And then the one other thing that Michelle's gonna do on these is identify some artists that are fine art, worldly artists that have come from here, so born and raised here and have a large pool of the art world in their own right.
You also have the Rita Dean and Abby pieces that are both at the library, in the library district, publicly at Charleston, and those that are on the property of the museum. So it's kind of a nice way too if you have multiple projects, because it lives on the web and it's free space. You can connect to some of the other organizations too.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and it's just about that, you know, what is our public art history, and we can build off of all of those things if we have.
There's a lot of also ephemeral art in the desert that happened that Michelle knows very well in the 60s and 70s that doesn't exist anymore, but there's great documentation of it where artists were really attracted to the desert.
Yep.
And you can tie in the Seven Magic Mountains because it's on that site of a lot of early artwork too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, this is an upcoming project. No timeline, no expectations yet. We're working out, negotiating the details right now, right?
That's exciting.
Yeah, sounds good. The Women's History Call for Proposals. So we ended up with 2 applications. We had our evaluators review those, and we identified a historian that is going to do it for $12,400. If you remember on this one, that's not the full budget because I do need to still seek out a graphic designer as well for this element.
Do you have one in mind? Do you do an RFQ for that, or do you do?
I don't know. I haven't delved into it yet.
There's a great one that just graduated from UNLV in the fine art department, but you know, a lot of her range is graphic design to support the art making practice.
Okay.
If you want a recommendation.
Yeah, I definitely would. Even if we do a call, we can at least contact people to say, hey, apply, right? I think that's a great idea.
Is that woman or women?
Women's history? I don't know.
Women, it should be women.
Women's history.
Clark County, significant women in Clark County, right?
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah,
Yes.
under the description.
Yeah.
Yes, the significant woman. Yep. Yes, it's supposed to be women.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
Eagle eyes.
Thank you.
I want to make sure what woman that would be if it's one woman.
We're scheduled a meeting with, that historian this week, and, between the Clark County Museum and I, and then hoping we can get them vendored and get them working on this project. March is coming up very quickly for Women's History, so we're
Is the goal to sort of launch the website in March?
yeah, and they're gonna help with the component of, you know, those women that they've identified for the webpage. We wanna highlight them within our own art exhibit. So we'll have a call for art, which will be thematic to women, but it might be like, you know, I am woman kind of situation. And then we want to have that historical aspect by, you know, maybe having images of these ladies and then some of their information, a little bit of their biography. So that's where that graphic designer is pretty critical, to bring somebody on, just because that's a lot of extra work.
Is that person, the graphic designer, just the graphic designer, going to fold into the other website for the history of public art?
Might be, but we didn't talk about doing an exhibit with that one. It's just purely, to do a website. So how we do a website in county is we just fill out a Word document with pictures and text, and we send that to the marketing team for them to upload. And so I didn't necessarily know it was that much work, and so I thought that Michelle could work with Sarissa, our graphic designer, that probably handled that one. But because this one is also asking for all of these extra things, you know, make some posters, make a marketing poster.
Other
Right, so
components
the
that live outside of the
companion.
web.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And so that's why I was like, all right, I definitely need a graphic designer to do
So
this.
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Now,
And a different program too. I mean, web and.
correct.
Would be different anyway.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Did you say there's an exhibit attached to this?
Yes, there is, yeah.
Okay. And art by women or about women?
I think it's, we haven't finalized what our exhibit calls, like, which is going to be.
Okay.
But there will be a component of this history of Clark County women within that exhibit. So kind of like if any of you went to the exhibit of Black History Month last year, we had historical items, and then we also had our art call. It's kind of two separate things, but the space is it's big enough to hold all of those items. And the year prior to that, we had an art call along with memorabilia from a famous boxer here in town. So, yeah, just kind of fills up the space and gives everyone something, you know, if you're a fan of history, you got a bit there. If you're a fan of art, you got that, contemporary art, locals, all that fun stuff.
I put together an exhibition for the Donna Beam Gallery a few years ago.
Nice.
Le Femme Forte, which is art by women. I identified women artists in the community and asked if they wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
It was a good exhibit.
Yeah, it'd be super cool. Yeah, we have to identify, some of that comes, like, some of it Geo thinks ahead of time, and then some of it is thinking about that curator and start to work with the curator on what it is that call is gonna be. But, yeah, we'll see. Going the wrong way. El Salvadorian Consulate mural. So this was the proposal by Herbert, and I went to long range planning, and they said, no, we declined that design, and we're asking the consulate to to go do community engagement at Cambridge and then, inform Herbert of those results. And then he can design around those conversations.
Was there a reason for the decline of the design?
Well, I mean, you have a couple different things going on. I mean, it's a community center with a lot of, casinos, and we even have a martini glass in there.
Right.
And then just, you know, what's that rhyme or reason about what those,
So the theme was not aligned with what the consulate was hoping for?
yeah, well, this was county management, long-range planning is county management that declined. And I apologize, we have some typos up top as well, El Salvador consulate.
Salvador.
But ultimately, it didn't feel like it felt like there was a disconnect between the community of Cambridge and what was being proposed. And so that's why they wanted, they wanted the consul to go and have those conversations, suggested things like, you know, talking to the El Salvadorian community about what they miss from home, and what are the similarities from home to Vegas. And then on the same right, then people that aren't from El Salvador, but they visit Cambridge often, just asking them, or maybe it's an education thing, do you know anything about El Salvador? You know, and giving them a taste of what the place is, right? Yeah. So this was like the original proposal, and then this was the second revision.
For Paradise Empowerment Art, we have set a date for the dedication, which will be in a couple of days. Thursday at 10 a.m. will be the dedication for this public art piece. And then it's the last time we'll see it on the list.
And then our piano project, it's installed. There was some challenges with the pens, so they need to be re-glued and then tuned, and then we can work on a dedication.
Is that gonna live outside?
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna need to tune it every week.
Yeah, it may not live very long. On conservation, Brett's been working on, working with, I'm drawing a blank. I'll jump over here. ZAP monthly maintenance. So this is our vendor who removes tags. We had 43 tags removed this past month from Gorilla Property Services. It looks like he's estimated the expense for the month, but that should be probably total. So that's, we've already spent about $19,000. I think we've spent more than that because we started back in July. So we'll get you that total here pretty soon. On Reach, Vicki Richardson had came back and responded to him, but there was a lot of details missing. So we've asked to schedule a meeting and talk about these things, and we unfortunately haven't heard from Vicki on this project. Desert Diamonds, he has created a quote and has sent it to 3 different companies. I'm trying to get a sandblasting company to come out and blast off that original anti-graffiti. And then we have all of these projects. We're going to go through these pretty quickly just because of timing. So I'm going to skip down to the ones that are super active right now. Family Courthouse mural, we are just waiting on background checks, and then we can move forward with contracting. We'd love to tell you who that artist is. Zach introduced himself. Zach is part of the Pearson Community Center Pillar Mural Project. Zachary is our documenter. Part of that scope, as you can see, I don't think it's in there. Oh, it is. It says part of that scope that the art committee had decided way back when was to bring on a production team. And Mike Norris has pitched his first pillar designs, and I think it's this week. This week is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow he's going to be resolving all of the designs. The evaluation committee is going to relook at those designs. I think they can chime in, but that's basically his last revisions on the project. He's basically going with a timeline. It's pretty cool. We're excited to get everyone started and get this project moving forward, doing some painting and stuff. Temporary art funding, we've had to place this piece on hold. So we've placed the contract on hold due to Josh passing. Right now, we're in a situation where we're trying to figure out, you know, whose hands it needs to go into. I think this is going to go to the BCC, probably to terminate contract. The artist, Davis, is saying, hey, you know, if you want to purchase this piece, because this was piece he's selling, it would be $100,000. This isn't the piece, by the way. This is just a piece that's showing just to show his artwork. And for that, he would install it and do everything for it. And that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'm trying to figure out where we stand with this whole project and see where we need to go with it. And are we really going to look at that funding to buy this piece and that type of stuff? So I might come to you all with a budget proposal.
Sounds like a good idea too, because I imagine if now you're acquiring the work from the artist directly and there's no management fee and, you know, potentially like if you're an institution acquiring a work, often there's a 10 to 20% discount if you're an institution, not to undercut the value of the artist's work, but sometimes there can be a point of negotiation where you could make it equitable, maybe you meet somewhere in the middle or, you know.
Yes, 100%. So yeah, that's where we're at with this piece. We're going to be on hold for quite a bit until we figure this one out. Homero is working with the evaluation committee on this project. We do have a typo there because we haven't done any expenses at this point. But even though we talked about all these things about the values and all of this other stuff, I've told the team, you know, we got to keep on moving. So he's going to do this call here pretty soon. He has to get his contracts in row and that kind of stuff. So I'm expecting probably by the end of this month, we might have this call out. It's actually for like $60,000. So it's a significant price point. So Desert Breeze, we are terminating. This one's very clear what we're doing with this one. We are terminating the contract with Fired Up Management. We have secured a PO with Fez, which was the original artist on this piece, and we have purchased this piece for $80,000. We then need to secure a fabricator, so we'll go out to quotes for that to make the corrections that we need, and then hopefully get this piece installed here pretty soon. We are out some funding, obviously, with the prior management company. and a little bit of another milestone payment, but how we're kind of moving forward on it.
Okay, so for the wetlands, as of right now, our jurors are evaluating our submissions. We have 6 solid submissions right now going through evaluation, and hopefully we will find something soon. Our scores are due on the 25th, so we will get word then. And then for SAP 16 and 17, we have announced all of the artists. They are currently, they already have submitted all of their design proposals, and those proposals are currently being evaluated by our jury panel for approval.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Now that we see Mary and Jeff again, do you have any questions, Mary or Jeff?
Looks like Jeff
Might have had to leave.
Jeff had to leave, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mary. All right, so we are on item number 11, which is identifying emerging issues by our committee for future meetings. And comments made during this portion of the agenda shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall just be limited to whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. So are there any issues that come to mind? Nope.
We need to clarify the laureate situation. I mean,
No, I think we have to do more research. We were gonna bring it back up with more research.
Yeah. So that's basically gonna be, we expect that to be,
On the next,
agenda item.
January,
Okay.
because we can come back to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other issues that come to mind? No. So now we have the section for comments by the general public. And with the
Andres.
Andres or Zach, would you wish to make any comments?
No, I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Andres, if you want to, oh, yep, he raised his hand. We're gonna unmute you. Or give you access to. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for your time. It's been very informative, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andres, is there anything you wish to share at this moment?
No, that's pretty clear. I'll probably join you next meeting. It's been very informative. I'm new to the area, and I was just curious to see
Oh,
the
wonderful.
workings. So yeah, so I'm very excited about the next meeting. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being part of the meeting, and we look forward to either having you here in person or joining via WebEx again. Okay.
Actually,
welcome.
I did have a question about I heard you speak of the art summit. Is that open to the public, or is that a closed meeting?
I believe it is open to the public. I think it may be ticketed, and it's through the city of Las Vegas, and I believe it's, last year it was in February. I don't know the date this year. I
Okay,
don't know
but
if they've announced the date yet.
there will be announcements for it?
Usually there are. It's kind of like in the interwebs of administrators, but you drop City of Las Vegas a line, let them know that you're new in town and you're interested in the art summit, and I'm sure that they would add you to the list. There are plenty of artists that do come to these.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
I can put my email in the chat, maybe?
Yeah, it'd be great.
And then if you reach out, I can add you to our mailing list.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Well, thank you, everyone. So it's our next and final item on the agenda is, well, just to thank you, and I will see you on January 14th. So we won't have a meeting in December. So see you in January.
Yep.
New year.
January's budget cycle, so I don't know if I'll have things for you in January, but at the very least, February, March, we'll be definitely pitching projects to you.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, and
Thank you.
good to see you all.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Bye, Mary.